Here's something I thought I'd never say. I lost my job because of COVID. Luckily, I found a new goal in my life and I'm now a full-time author with some limits. Today is a weird day for me. It's not a pink elephant with ears big enough to fly. As an author, you rely on your brain. I am now a full-time author. Give myself and Antigone the freedom. But at least I've started writing again. I found out that it was wrong. You want to know why? I had the orientation completely upside down. Today is a weird day for me. It's beginning of October and I thought it is a good moment to start a writing vlog. Today I got the decision from the unemployment agency here in the Netherlands that I am officially now 80 to 100%, what do they call it, incapacitated for work due to post-COVID. And you know, it's not an easy thing to hear that. It's sad, actually. So I thought it's a good day to start officially a writing vlog right now. It's time to talk about that beastie in the room. I know it's not a pink elephant with ears big enough to fly. It's a completely different beast. COVID. Although the virus may seem small, the consequences aren't. I feel it's time to talk about this from the perspective of an author with long COVID, so that you know what it does to us, to patients like me. I'm fully aware this is a little more on the heavy and emotional side than what you're used to from me. I would love it if you would listen to this to understand more about what long COVID does to a patient, and to get to know why I currently do the things the way I do them. But I completely understand it if this is not your cup of tea. So if you'd like to skip it, check down in the description box below or just follow the chapter settings of the video and skip to the next parts where you can hear all about my acrobatic snails. And about my writing process and my writing progress in October. So, COVID, it's not just the flu, as many people still might think. For a large group of patients, it has significant consequences. Like for the about 450,000 patients here in the Netherlands, give or take a few thousands, who are all suffering from long COVID, the consequences of COVID for some. And that's only here in the Netherlands. Worldwide, there are millions upon millions of people suffering from the after effects of COVID, long COVID. Or as we here in the Netherlands say, post-COVID, because otherwise people think it's a disease which is exclusively about the lungs, which it isn't. Unfortunately, that I can tell you from personal experience. Let me take you back to the year it all started for me. It was the summer of 2022. Here I was, enjoying my life like everybody else, working my 6-hour day job as an interior cleaner, writing my book series, going for walks, designing the concepts of 2 video games. I started training for the 4 days marches in Nijmegen, which is quite a feat, I should say. I was also playing multiplayer online role-playing games, going to the movies, going to dinner with family and friends. Little did I know that was all about to change. The sun was shining, we had clear blue skies, wonderful temperatures, comfortable, warm temperatures, I should say. And we were celebrating that weather with barbecues, ice cream, long leisurely walks in the park, besides our jobs, of course. And to make it even better, we had almost tropical temperatures come the end of August. Temperatures soaring to a whopping 34 degrees Celsius, which is not that common here in the Netherlands. Everybody was enjoying their life to the fullest, me included. No one around me was sick, as far as I knew, at least. Like, the numbers were even so good that we didn't need to test anymore in the testing facilities. Then the ball started to drop. I got sick. I will always remember the day I did that test with my heart beating in my throat, a pit in my stomach. I did a test and I saw these 2 red lines appear in mere seconds. There was no doubt about it. This was no false positive result. This was COVID. Like many people at that time and later, I too felt I just had a bad case of the flu for 2 weeks. The first signs were already there, but I just didn't want to see them. At some time during the first week that I was sick, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was shivering with cold, chattering teeth, and the air felt warm on my skin. Sure, it was middle of the summer. We had high temperatures, but the moment that you feel the air, the warm air on your skin, or you realize that something is weird, wrong even. As a teenager, I have experienced high fevers due to a hay fever, but I felt this was something else. This was not good. It was a reaction of my body I had never experienced before. Part of me still didn't want to believe it. Little did I know that this was just the beginning. After 2 weeks, the fever was gone, the coughing was gone, the pain in my lungs was gone. Perfect, right? But I still slept 9 to 14 hours a night. And during the day, I was still exhausted. But you know what? I just had a bad case of the flu. I simply needed a bit more time to recover. I could just go to work and everything would be fine. Nothing to worry about. And I would just get better, like normal. You'll see. At least that's what I told myself. The company doctor did not agree with me, and that was my luck. He told me to start with half of my hours and see how that would go, essentially. I was like, do I have to? I mean, I can just work. Yeah, you can work with half of your hours and not more. It turns out he was right. After 3 hours of work, I came home exhausted, needing several hours of sleep to recover a bit. And as you may expect, at the end of the week, I was utterly exhausted and couldn't do a thing anymore. But I was like, you know what? It's the weekend, I will take my rest, and once the weekend is over, everything will go better. I'm positive. Yeah. I shouldn't be that positive. It didn't go any better. After my 3-hour shifts on Monday in the second week I came back to work, immediately went to my general practitioner. Yeah, that works differently here in the Netherlands. We can just go to our local general practitioner instead of the hospital. And she told me I had to cut down my hours even more. And she came with the statement that I dreaded. I had post-COVID. I tried to reason with her. I mean, I hadn't been in a hospital. I hadn't been that sick. Yeah, sure, I had the flu. Bad case of the flu. But, I mean, it's not like all those other people who have been in the hospitals and who were far worse off than I was. I mean, it couldn't, but I was sorely mistaken. My general practitioner laid it down plain and clearly for me. you have post-COVID and you have to cut back your hours right now, or things will really start to go wrong for you. Very reluctantly, I agreed. I called my boss, and luckily she understood. And she told me recovery is what's most important right now, and work will be solved, no problem. So I continued to work 3 days a week and 3 hours a day instead of my normal 6 hour work week. And of course, I got several tests, blood works, everything, just to make sure that it wasn't something else. I had my lungs checked, everything was fine, it was normal, at least as normal as it can be for me with my asthma. All those tests were without result. Well, at least the result that I didn't have any of those other things. I did have post-COVID. After a few weeks, I went to the physical therapist, and a few weeks after, I also went to the occupational therapist, and I've been to a speech therapist, not for my speech, but for my breathing. Slowly but gradually, I started to get better. All were also specialized in post-COVID, so that really helped me a lot. They really understood what I was going through. So everything got better. I could do more again. True, it was slow, too slow for my patience. I'm really bad at that. But still, with months of physical and occupational therapy, I started to get better. I almost worked my full hours again. I could go for walks again. I could do household chores again, etc., etc. Just normal. All is well in the world. Until it all came crashing down in September 2023. I had several months with a lot of stress, and with stress comes adrenaline, and then you can keep on going. You know, those people who can lift cars in that sort of situations. Well, I couldn't lift cars, but at least I was, what I thought, going back to myself, going back to what I used to be. And then the stress fell away, and with that the adrenaline, and with that everything else started to crumble. Let me teach you one important lesson about COVID and long COVID. COVID and stress do not go together. COVID will punish you hard, real hard. So that's when everything started to crumbling down in September. In October, I needed to cut back down my hours, and in November again, until I was at half of my normal hours. I needed a lot of sleep, and on top of that, I had also other problems. I now also had real trouble standing and walking for longer times. I had loss of muscle power. I had trouble with my balance. And at that time, I didn't even know how much muscle power I had lost. But the fact that my legs regularly gave out under me should have been a clear sign that something was really wrong. And that was not all. My symptoms were not just physical. I had quite some brain issues as well, like short-term memory loss, losing my train of thought, not knowing any words, saying wrong words, saying words that don't exist even. And no, those were not conlang words, I can assure you that. As an author, this was quite a hard experience, because you rely on your brain, you rely on all those thoughts that are coming up to be able to write. And for me, that was really hard. And besides those cognitive problems, I also had problems with extreme stimuli sensitivity. Like when I was driving in a car to a neighboring town, it was just 15 minutes away or something, but it was dark So I saw the headlights of the cars coming to me. It was also raining. So the lanterns were shining. It was raining and the rain sounded like hail on my car. By the time I got to my destination, I was exhausted. Truly, utterly exhausted. I couldn't do a thing anymore. And all I knew was that I needed to rest because I was too exhausted to do anything that would make any sense. Other things like being in a room with a lot of people, for instance, with my coworkers, was way too much for me. So I had to stop going to work meetings. I had to stop seeing my family and friends that live further away, because I can't handle the drive anymore and I can't handle being around too many kids anymore. I mean, kids are kids. Kids will be kids. They make a lot of noise and they should. But for me, that was too much. But despite all those symptoms and everything that had gotten worse, I kept working. Why? I don't know. Apparently, maybe it's a women's thing. I spoke to several fellow female post-COVID patients, and they experienced the same. They just kept on going until they couldn't anymore. We have to keep all the balls floating in the sky, I guess. But why? And with what results? Terrible results, as it turned out. Which resulted in one of my blackest days I've ever known. At the end of January, I fell down the last few steps of the stairs here at home after I had been working for 3 hours, simply because my legs gave out under me. That was the moment that for me was a very hard moment. It took a while before I could get up from the stairs and stumble to the couch and sleep for several hours. I called my boss and I told her I was not able to work anymore because my body just couldn't handle it anymore. My body simply couldn't handle anything anymore. My body essentially had given me the last emergency signal, if you will, that said, enough is enough. I've done enough. I've proven beyond a doubt that I am willing to work. But I just couldn't do it anymore. And I wouldn't do it anymore. Simply put, my body couldn't handle it anymore. Physically and my brain, I was just done. And that is one of the hardest things. You do not want to give up your job because your body and your brains can't handle it anymore. Because it also means you have to give up on a lot of things in your life. But I knew this was, for me, the right decision because I couldn't go on anymore. Not without finding some way to get better again. And at that moment, the end of January, I didn't see that option anymore. My boss and my employer were luckily very understandable. They didn't make a fuss. They just said, you're staying home and it's done. And we'll see in a few weeks, in a few months, how you are. But there's also such a thing as the Working Conditions Service here in the Netherlands. And what I later found out, the nurse At first, I thought he was a doctor. He told me I had to get back to work 2 weeks after after our appointment, a week after I had fall down from the stairs. After all, before I stopped working, I worked 15 hours a week. So, you know what? You go back to work for less hours, but you're still going back to work. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, I can't even take a shower without falling down. I can't prep my dinner without my legs giving out under me. How do you think I'm going to keep up with 2 hours of physical labor? Because that is what interior cleaning is. It's truly a workout. But I had to go. I went one day. It was a disaster, and my boss expected that, and my HR manager expected that, and basically, my therapists and friends and family, they expected nothing less than that it would be a disaster. But I tried it one day, and after that, I was really completely, utterly done. In the end, at April, the end of April, the doctor, the real doctor this time, not the nurse, finally came to the conclusion that at the end of January, I had physically and mentally and cognitively collapsed. Essentially, that was his assessment, and that they didn't handle it properly. And now I got rest, real rest. No more stress of having to go back to work while I wasn't able to get back to work. No, just real rest, finally. I didn't need to work anymore. I didn't need to look for another job anymore, because that is something that we have to do here in the Netherlands when you are in your second year of being ill. It's one of the obligations that you have. But in this case, that was something I didn't need to do anymore either. The next stress point, of course, was applying for benefits with the Netherlands Employees Insurance Agency, or UWV. Going through that time hasn't been easy either. I have had a lot of stress from January carrying over till the end of August, when I had the last conversations, the last meetings with the nurse and the doctor from and the occupational expert from the UWV. I had other things going on as well, and I was far from recovered. I wasn't recovered at all. I still have a lot of limitations. I haven't seen some of my family members since the end of last year. I haven't seen some of my friends since the end of last year, because it just takes too much energy from me. I can walk a whopping 400 meters, and then I have to sit on a bench in the park, and I have to sit for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and then I can go back. So that's a sharp contrast with everything I did before I contracted COVID. And it's hard. And I have no idea if I will ever be able to recover. The future will tell us. We'll have to wait for that. Now, a few weeks ago, the UWV told me that they deemed me 100% incapacitated to work. That is something that is very hard to hear, especially because it comes from someone who doesn't know you. But at the same time, I knew deep in my heart this was the best for me right now with how I am right now. Physically, emotionally, mentally, cognitive. I mean, I have so many limitations that I'm of no use for a new employer or anything like that. Learning something new isn't something I can do at the moment. So even though deep in my heart I know this is the best, it's still hard. Due to all these post-COVID things, I have now lost my job, but at least I get benefits from the UWV. The benefits are 1/3 less what I used to earn. It's roughly 600 euros or something that I now get, less than what I earned as a salary in July. Net, that's a net loss. But at least I get benefits. There are also post-COVID patients who do not get benefits. Our system works complicated here in the Netherlands. Too complicated to explain right now. And also not always fair. I think I was very lucky with the doctor and with the nurse and the occupational expert and the work coach who were truly convinced that I couldn't do it anymore right now with how I am right now. So essentially I just got rest also from that agency. And now that I have these benefits, I can focus on getting rest and relaxation, sorta. I can learn to let the stress leave my body. That's something I really need to learn. It's not easy for me, but I'll get there. And hopefully find some recovery at some point in the future. Okay, with that little piece of history said, let's look at my earlier statement. I am now a full-time author. Within my limits. I have clear limits right now and I will have to adhere to them. My occupational therapist and I have made a schedule to at least get to a stable point. And that means that I can do activities for 1 hour and then I will have a rest for 20 minutes. And those activities are a mix of physical activities and cognitive activities. These last few months, I found that I was quite hesitant to write again. You might think, why? You now have all the time to write. Yeah, you'd think that. But I found that writing for a longer period of time or multiple shorter periods of time during the day would also let me pay with a lot of symptoms the days after. If I had had a creative day, I would have 3 days of so much muscle ache that I needed to take painkillers. My cognitive symptoms would be really worse. It would be really hard. And more things like that. I would open my laptop and start to dread opening Scrivener. So I started to write and world build less. Grabbing pen and paper to make sketches or to make my maps or things like that, or to just simply write down things instead of working on my laptop, or use my mobile phone to dictate it. Then too, I would have those symptoms. So I was really starting to dread doing those things as well. At some point I actually realized that it was fear holding me back. It took a while for me to realize that, but at least I did. It was holding me back in something that I always loved doing, writing. Writing had always been a way for me to relax. And now post-COVID was holding me back. The knowledge that I have these stories, these characters, this world inside of me, waiting, almost begging even to be let out and play. It caused stress in a different way. Because yes, on one hand, I wanted to do that. On the other hand, I was afraid of the consequences for several days to come. But I really wanted to dive back into the world of Tergene and let the characters loose and find all those collections of stories and other things that I still have to find out about Tergene. So I came to a realization. I need to double down on my limits, really keep myself in check, and with that, give myself and Tergene the freedom to come out and play again, to write those stories, to get to know the characters better and get to know the world better. Granted, it will be a much, much slower process than what I was used to in the past, but I will loosen the reins again. I am loosening the reins again. I'm giving myself and Tergene the freedom again to let it all out, to come out and play again. I will see how it goes. I may have to adjust it here and there. I may find that slowly I might be able to do a little bit more within my limits. That would be great. With adjusting things here and there, things will get better. I'm positive about that. And it will be better for me, and it will be better for the Tergene Chronicles. That is how I will be a full-time author with post-COVID. I will rest a lot. I will write in shorter bursts of time, in not so much in a full day, but I will write again and I will make the maps that I'm dreaming of. And I don't know, I have this little creature called the Flutter Nymph, Riri. I still need to design her, or rather I want to sketch her, I want to draw her. I've already got the concept design in my head, and also on paper. So yeah. That is how I will be a full-time author with post-COVID. Like I hinted at earlier, in November, by the time that this video is released, it will be already there. The post-COVID clinics, expertise centers here in the Netherlands will open up. These centers will not offer immediate cures. They said that explicitly. It's to gather information on a uniform way, to be able to do better and more research with that information, and to make sure that all medical personnel that in one way or another has to do with post-COVID patients will have all the correct information. Hopefully one day they will find a cure or treatment or at least medication to at least be able to battle our symptoms and get back our lives again. Because I can tell you from experience, all post-COVID patients are eagerly awaiting that. We really want to get back to our lives, maybe in a different form, maybe with different jobs, but we most certainly want to get back our lives. And hopefully those expertise clinics will help with that. Even though it might not bring immediate cure, heck, I think it will take months, if not several years in the future, for them to come with a treatment or medication or the actual cure. Once we have it, I will celebrate it with all other post-COVID patients and of course with you guys. Okay, that was some heavy and emotional stuff. Let's put that behind us and let's look at what I do, how I work as an author, because I've had a lot of questions on how I work, how my writing process goes. There are a few things important with writing. For me, it's not sad that this is for everybody, but I do a mix of outlining, world building, lore building, and writing. I mean, writing is quite essential. But for me, it's really a combination. Originally, with Tergene Chronicles, It started with a rough idea, and it was a rough idea about a world. So I started more world building, but I also started to develop the characters and to develop the story. And right now, I really have a combination of an outline, which is truly no more than just a very short summary per chapter. I do need that summary because that works handy for me. Besides that, I have extensive world building, which greatly helps me. And I also have tracking tools like an Excel sheet where I keep track of all my foreshadowing. I have Aeon Timeline, which helps me with the storyline, setting it all out in time. I have, of course, my world building documents in Scrivener and lots more. And they really work together for me. When I'm stuck somewhere in my story, when I'm writing a scene, for example, and I'm stuck with something that doesn't feel right about the world, I will go back to my world building and I will see, okay, what am I missing or what is wrong and what do I need to fix? If I notice that I have something planned in my outline, but it doesn't work out in my story, I will adjust my outline. That's, for me, my outline is a guideline. It's not set in stone. The same goes for world building. If something doesn't work out, it's not set in stone and I will just change it. Of course, it has to make sense in my world, but I will change it if it's for the better. So that's how my writing process goes. Now that you know more about my writing process, let's look at my writing progress in October. October has been a weird month for me, as you may have already guessed. With the UWV giving their decision about me being incapacitated to work, and my realization that I was actually dreading writing again, in combination with my longing to dive back into the world of Tergane, it's been a weird mix. But at least I've started writing again. And I have to say, it wasn't easy. I have written the first chapter of the first book, or I should say the new first book, and I have rewritten it multiple times. And at the time of recording this video, I still did not feel like it was the right beginning. I will figure it out during the Golden Quill month, and if you want to know more about that, check the link in above or in a description below. With the chapter, I couldn't seem to find the tone and the setting that was good for me. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's my, well, I want to say first draft, but technically for the Tergane Chronicles, I think I'm now at draft 3 or 4, even though this is the new first book in the series and this is a book I haven't written yet. The previous first book will now be parts of the second and the third book, I think. So it will be different, but it will be fun. Like I mentioned, in November the Golden Quill month starts, and I have a few goals. I have made a very general sketch overview of the Silk and Bamboo Kingdom archipelago, and I found out that it was wrong. You want to know why? I had the orientation completely upside down. So I need to fix that. That's all part of world building, you know? You have an idea and you start to draw. It's all fun until you realize that the orientation to another kingdom is the other way around. And basically the way you've drawn it it makes it kind of impossible for what you have in mind. So that's one of the things I'm going to fix during the Golden Quill month. I will also work on detailed parts of the map for Dragon City. I have a general sketch overview of that, but I need to work out the detailed parts. And I will work on the map of the White City. I will finalize that map because that's also something I have drawn, I think last year even. So I might redraw it, but at least I'm going to work on those. That's my planning for November. And I will write as well, and I will see where it gets me. But one thing is for sure, I will use that schedule that I set up with my occupational therapist. 1 hour of activities, 20 minutes of rest. I will do lore building, I will do world building, I will write, I will sketch. Pretty much anything that has to do with writing with my books. I will do it in a slower pace. I decided not to set a word count goal. I know that other events does that. But with the Golden Quill month, we decided that we don't do that. Or at least it's not the main goal. The main goal is to track your progress. And if your progress, if you want to track a word count, that's perfect. For me, I'm not going to do that because I know I will set a word count goal which is too high and I will never make it. Not with how things are right now for me. So that's going to be different. But that's okay. If you want to stay updated on my progress, I would say check out my weekly live streams on Saturday. They are 1 hour, mostly, I try to. And I will also post in the community posts, or in the community tab here in the channel, and in our fantasy Discord, fantasy tab and Discord server. You can find the link down below in the description box. And I will post a new writing vlog. I might post it at the end of November, or at the beginning of December. It probably will be at the beginning of December. I hope to see you all later again. I wish you a lot of fun with the Golden Quill month and anything else you want to participate in during this writing month. I wish you a lot of fun and I hope to see you all.